The third generation Volkswagen Touareg was something of a game changer upon its arrival in Australia in 2019. Genuinely cross-shopped by large SUV buyers against the likes of Mercedes-Benz, Audi and BMW. Well, 3 years have passed since then, so how has the Touareg aged? We've got the 210 TDI R-Line to review. Let's find out. The third generation Touareg moved the Volkswagen brand into a new luxury paradigm when it launched in 2019. Judged as a runner-up in the Car Sales Car of the Year and attracting a wave of new and existing buyers to the German brand. 3 years on, the Touareg has crept up slightly in price and has launched in V8 diesel and soon plug-in hybrid forms. The 210 TDI R-Line tested here marks the longest standing model and retails at $116,290 plus on-road costs, but real-world values are in actual fact closer to $140,000 at the time of publishing. Yep, the Touareg is that popular. Power here is sourced from a muscular 3-litre turbo diesel V6 engine. It's certainly not a new engine, but on paper it gives you the best of both worlds. A 0 to 100 sprint claim of 6.1 seconds and a claimed fuel consumption figure of just 6.8 litres per 100 k's combined. The Touareg's driveline comprises Volkswagen's 4Motion all-wheel drive system connecting with a conventional 8-speed automatic gearbox. At elegance and R-Line level, the Touareg is air suspended too, using McPherson struts up front and an independent 5-link arrangement at the rear. Inside there's beautiful Savona leather trim, soft contact points and trinkets aplenty, including heated, cooled and massaging front seats with a memory function as well. The design here is first rate as well. The sweeping 15-inch centre touchscreen display, the metallic highlights, the use of different materials. It's a really pretty place to spend time. But as we'll see, form doesn't always come before function where infotainment is concerned. The other talking point here is probably the driving position. It sounds so simple, but just to jump in a car, have easy reach of all the controls and to be so low slung in the cabin, it just feels right. The Touareg would benefit greatly from a soft closed door feature, as we found the driver's door on our test car in particular often required a second shut to seal tight. It's something small, but definitely annoying after a couple of weeks with the car. Otherwise, storage and space is sound inside, buying into the big Volksie's user-friendly positioning. Infotainment, however, could be better. So the centre touchscreen display is pretty to look at, but is it functional? Well, for the most part, yes, it works quite well, but when you're on the move, I'd simply prefer physical buttons and dials in the center fascia. Of course, that would completely change the packaging of the Touareg, but I just find that when you're on the go, you're having to dig through all these needless different menus just to do something as simple as put the recirculated air conditioning on. The other little gripe is Apple CarPlay. It's not quite integrated into the full screen of the Touareg. It's only using a small part of it. So you do have a lot of dead space. And as someone that uses Apple CarPlay pretty much every time I drive, I find that's probably not as good as it could be. Elsewhere though, the digital instrument cluster is a breeze to use. It's really legible with all of its information and you can scan at it on the move without distracting you. Equally, the head-up display means you can keep your eyes on the road ahead while scanning all the important information. The Touareg covers all 8 of our infotainment checklists as standard. Likewise, it gets a big nod for standard safety inclusions, ticking every box. In many ways, the second row of the Touareg is simply an extension of the first because it's comfortable, it's spacious, and there's plenty of oddment storage and rear air vents as well. You can actually slide the rear seats individually to prioritise either leg room or luggage space. There's plenty of space, as I said, door pockets, and even these sunshades which are integrated into the windows. It's exactly what you'd expect for this price tag. The rear seat space covers all the basic amenities expected at this price point and offers excellent comfort over longer journeys. Now, one potential sticking point for the Touareg is the absence of third row seats. Now, make of that what you will, but
You would think that just having a 6th and 7th seat would really broaden this SUV's appeal and open it up to a whole new market of buyers. Either way though, you're getting 810 litres of boot space. It's a flat floor space and it's facilitated by these split folding levers as well to stow the second row. There's also these handy buttons here which allow you to raise or lower the car at will for easier loading. The other bone of contention here is the Space Saver spare tyre. It's definitely better than no tyre at all, but given this is geared as a vehicle that can go off-road, you'd ideally like a full-size spare wheel. Okay, so it might not accommodate 7 people, but you jump behind the wheel of a Volkswagen Touareg and there is seemingly no kind of compromise because it is such a polished performer across all the key driving parameters. I'll start with the engine. It's not new, it's been around for a long time, dating way back to cars like the Porsche Macan, the Cayenne, but even the outgoing Volkswagen Amarok, they've all used this turbo diesel V6 engine. And in this application, it is simply a peach. I will say it is beset with a little bit of lag. I hadn't driven it for about 12 months, this particular drivetrain, and that's one thing I kind of jumped into and noticed straight away. The initial throttle tip in, there is a noticeable hesitation, and it's not really in keeping with this car's monstrous power and torque outputs. Now I've noticed that lag and that hesitation both from a standstill, that's a bit of a typical symptom in Volkswagen cars, but also in rolling acceleration. Normally you have a DSG transmission to kind of rescue things and mitigate some of that delay. This kind of, to keep the engine in its sweet spot, it is a diesel, so it has a narrower bandwidth of revs than a regular petrol. And the gearbox is often kind of throwing back gears to keep the engine at its sweet spot. So there is a noticeable delay. But once you have tapped into that torque curve, which really kind of materializes from 1500 RPM to about just shy of 4000 RPM, you have a huge amount of power and torque to play with. And it's a muscular diesel soundtrack too. Forget clattery or agricultural, this is refined. It actually sounds quite brutish and muscular. And I like it, it's very cool. I have to say this is a really impressive drivetrain because it does do efficiency quite well too. 8.3 litres per 100 Ks on a 1200 kilometre journey in this car. Certainly isn't to be sneezed at. I think you'd be hard pressed to find petrol and diesel options that are this competitive. Even hybrid, I think this really remains competitive despite being an older drivetrain. Then there's the refinement as well. That hesitation aside, just feels like a nice, effortless drivetrain. 8-speed automatic, as I said, it works well, and with all-wheel drive grip, you have no problem putting the power to the ground.
Those user-friendly properties are boosted by rear-wheel steering, adaptive suspension, and active roll stabilisation, features which together mask the Touareg's 2.2-tonne curb weight.
Elsewhere, look, there are so many competitors in this space. Obviously this doesn't have 2 seats. It is sort of geared as a more European, more athletic option, and it drives that way too. I really enjoy spending time behind the wheel of the Volkswagen Touareg because it has genuine feeling and feedback to the key controls. There is a slightly digital veneer to the steering, but body control is well in check. It changes direction quite admirably, and it feels planted on the road too. Bumps and things like that present no such problem with this car. With a sportier premise to the key controls, you're going to notice perhaps more of a niggly ride than more comfort-oriented SUVs, but it's a trade-off I'd be happy to make because for what you get with the way that this car changes direction, the way that it just handles itself in a mix of conditions on different road surfaces, it really is impressive. I have to say, I think this is an SUV that I can see owners really just enjoying living with every day. Even something as simple as driving, you think big family SUV. Ordinarily you'd think cumbersome, a little bit bulky, a little bit hard work, but this really is a joy to drive. It's not a sports car, but it's an SUV that does everything quite well, and it's quite impressive as a result.
The Touareg is offered with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia, and at the time of publishing is also being offered with 5 years complimentary servicing, a huge draw card for families.
When the third generation Touareg first arrived in 2019, some naturally questioned its lofty purchase price or whether it deserved to be cross-shopped against European rivals. We now know the answer to both those questions is an unequivocal yes. Now, while there have been moderate price increases, the Touareg still holds plenty of appeal. It's loaded with tech, it's refined inside and out, and it's just a breeze to drive, 7 seats or not.